Merkel Media.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony? Please. Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Well, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Daylight NBC.
Jack Marius Tack Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Mumbai Kutafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
The hijacker's passport was
$1 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles in Fort Lauderdale?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you're watching us on Band.video, Rockfin, Odyssey, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thanks a million. We appreciate it. Couldn't do the show without you. Appreciate our sponsors, My Patriot Supply. Look, we're going to need this stuff, unfortunately. I wish we were living in a world where we didn't need to be so focused on planning for the future. Maybe, we've lived through supply chain issues in the past, but nothing quite like what we are facing. We have issues in China. We have supply chain issues inside the United States. We have food processing facilities that are catching on fire. They're getting hit by airplanes. We have train derailments. We have fertilizer shortages. We have wheat export issues in Ukraine. We've got problems, okay? Now, we can dwell on the problems, or we can be proactive and maneuver ourselves so that we are less affected by the problem. So I'll tell you what, whether you're getting ready through my sponsors at My Patriot Supply or you're doing it on your own, I really don't care. I just want to make sure that everybody is ready for what we're facing or what we're going to be facing. So if you're interested and you want to knock it out in about 10 minutes, there's a landing site for you called preparewithmacroaggressions.com. You can go there right now. You can get yourself a 3-month supply of food. They're having a special on it. I'm not sure exactly how long this is going to last, but they're discounting it by $250. You might as well take advantage of it now. I'll tell you what, it's not the worst thing to have, whether you've got emergencies, natural disasters, those types of things, supply chain issues. You maybe just want to make sure that your mom is older and living out of state, and you want to make sure that she's got a couple containers of food in case things get weird. Just be proactive. That's all I ask. Just think about things a couple months down the line. Get this stuff going now. I'll tell you what, not the worst investment either. And though I am not licensed to give investment advice, I would just say that if you've got rapidly depreciating value of your Federal Reserve notes, and you've also got food shortages that are going to be coming, and you've got an opportunity to buy food at a discounted price, I don't know. I'm just saying. Might be something to look into. So there's a landing page. The website is going to be in the show notes. You can just go there, click the link and go to it yourself, or you can type in preparewithmacroaggressions.com and see what you think. They've got everything. Survival coffee, which you're probably going to need. The food that they have will last for 25 years. Based on this the deal that they have, it works out to like a little over $7 a day for this food, and it'll feed you. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner plus snacks, and it'll feed a family of 4. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good deal. I'm just saying, hopefully you never need it, but if you do, it'll last you for a quarter of a century, so you might as well take advantage of it. Also, thanks to Chemical Free Body, they've been fantastic for us. Tim James, the owner of the company, has been on this program multiple times. Every time he comes on, he tells us some new thing that we can do to save ourselves, to make ourselves feel a little bit better physically. I think, look, when you're sick, there's nothing worse, right? You'd give anything to feel better. What I think Chemical Free Body does is it gives you access to vitamins and minerals and supplements and things like that actually work, which is surprising in the vitamin world. I think there's a lot of scammy stuff going on there, but Tim will tell you his formulator is one of the best in the business. And I've been on this stuff for over 2 years. If you are interested in detoxifying your body, there is a detox in a box package, a bundle that they have. They'll give you 2 Green 85 canisters. That's just powder that you mix with water or juice, drink it up in the morning. And then you're going to get a bottle of gut detox, toxin detox, probiotics, and ultra enzymes. And he put me through the 90-day program in this, and it leaned me out real good. Almost a little too much, to be honest with you. I was not expecting. Not trying to lose weight, but I did. So look, I think it just kind of helps improve the efficiency of your body so that you're working at optimal levels. So take a look. See what you think. chemicalfreebody.com/macro. Use the macro on your way out to save yourself some money. But I'll tell you, get yourself ready. Get yourself healthy. Be aggressive in this. If you're sitting around waiting for someone to tell you, hey, it's time to get yourself healthy, that person is you. Okay? The only person who's going to force you to do this is you. So if you're at the end of your rope and you've decided, you know what, I've heard enough. He's been talking about this stuff for 2 years. I'm tired of listening to him. I'm finally just going to buy it and shut him up. So do that. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/macro, read up about it, see what you think. If you like, pull the trigger and buy it. They have free shipping inside the United States too on orders over $100. So get yourself ready. Get yourself ready because they're coming. They're coming for us. The British are coming. No, not the British. The United Nations. They've had it with us. They hate us. They have declared war on conspiracy theorists. Have you heard this? Oh, this is rich. Coming from the United Nations, like a hotbed of conspiratorial thinking at its core from its inception. But they're going to lecture us about conspiracy theories and wrongthink and the significant harm that they can do to people. Oh, okay. All right. Well, it is true, though. They have launched a campaign. They are genuinely terrified of the, quote, conspiracy theories out there. Now, let me ask you something. If you know somebody, let's say there's somebody in your life that's just a raving lunatic, and they want to go out, and they go out there and all the time they're talking about how crazy you are, right? They're just spouting out nonsense. Does that really matter that much? I mean, given that they're crazy, given that you don't hold them in high regard and general public doesn't really see them, think much of them, guys walking around, carrying a shoe like it's a phone, talking into it and telling the world about how crazy you are. Does that really carry much weight? Probably not, right? Why are we conspiracy theorists so dangerous to them? I mean, if we're unhinged and filled with disinformation and making no sense at all, then shouldn't the United Nations just allow us to continue talking our nonsense and expose ourselves? I mean, wouldn't that be what you would do? If this person is clearly lying or wrong about something and they're bad-mouthing you, what do you care? They're clearly wrong. You don't have to do anything. In fact, actually, to do something about it is to signal that you actually care what they think. And that's what is happening with the United Nations right now. They're simultaneously telling the world, these conspiracy theorists with their ideas, they're crazy and they're stupid and they don't know anything and they're wrong and they're dangerous and they're all these things. So, but we've got to really attack them. We have to really go after them. A full assault on the conspiracy theorists, their ideas, their way of life, and the things that we're that all of them are talking about. We not only have to acknowledge that they're out there, we have to have a full meeting. We have to devise an entire agenda to combat this, because these people are so dangerous. So I ask you, if we're so unhinged and so wrong in our assessment of how the world works, then why don't you just let us continue to be wrong? I mean, after all, we'll just look crazy, right? And that's the worst punishment that we could have, is to come across as unhinged and ridiculous. But if you're trying to defeat that, the best thing you can do is just let the person keep talking. Here's the problem. We aren't wrong, and they know that. We aren't the ones making up outrageous conspiracy theories. They are. This is a collection. Of course, the United Nations is built. Everything that they work towards is to destroy. If you wanted to make a list of the organizations that are really evil, the United Nations would be in the top 10, easily. And maybe even the top 5, probably the top 5, for what they're doing around the world. Given the umbrella that encompasses the United Nations in general, short of like the American government or NATO, the United Nations is probably the worst organization operating in the world. But they are scared of you. They're very scared. They're very concerned about you exposing them and talking about not the lies. They're not worried about you talking about lies about the United Nations. They're worried about you talking about the truth, about what they're actually doing. The truth is kryptonite to them. So they've gotten together and put together the organization already exists. It's called UNESCO. It's an acronym: United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. So this is in the United Nations parent umbrella, right? Underneath it, one of the organizations, you've got World Health Organization and groups like that, but you also have UNESCO. And UNESCO does things like World Heritage sites and things like that. They'll designate pieces of land. This is kind of protected. They'll designate chains of islands or regions. I know, I had land in Belize an island in Belize that was under the UNESCO World Heritage protection. So one of the things that did was that it meant that there were certain restrictions on development, things that you could and couldn't do. And I remember going, I got this land this place is falling right in the middle of a World Heritage site. So it's like you sort of have to, it's like a layer of restrictions on top of whatever the established countries restrictions are. The UNESCO put something on top of it. Not necessarily, I never really felt like it was overly nefarious, but it's the United Nations. So of course, by default, I'm just not down with it. UNESCO is their Paris-based UN education agency. So think of it like this. This is the United Nations Education Department. So they have to educate you on all of the things that are important to the United Nations, meaning sustainable goals, vaccine schedules, what is true information, what's not true information. This is the enforcement arm. Well, this is the educational enforcement arm. This is where they reinforce the lies through this education department, this agency. So I want to read you what they said. This: conspiracy theories cause significant harm and form the backbone of many populist movements and foster and reinforce harmful thinking patterns and exclusive worldviews. When it comes to listening, just invert everything. It is a classic. It's all projection. Okay, almost everything that they're talking about is the criticisms that they have towards conspiracy themselves are committing. It is so frustrating. But of course, this is what you do. Well, you accuse your enemy that which you yourself are guilty of. This is classic psychopathic behavior. This is what you see politicians doing all the time when you see Hillary Clinton standing up there accusing people of trying to, crimes that she is rightly guilty of. I mean, not limited to her, of course, but she just does it Monday through Friday and twice on Saturday. It's frustrating when you watch this, but this is how they act. This is how the people are going to behave. So it should come as no surprise, of course, but it'll make you kind of mad because when you read through this and you go, oh, the conspiracy theorists are fostering and reinforcing harmful thinking patterns and exclusive worldviews. You mean exclusive worldviews like let's depopulate half the planet by giving them vaccines? You mean that sort of exclusivity in their worldview? Get the fuck out of here. I mean, the United Nations is the encapsulation of an exclusive worldview. That's literally what they do. Their charter is a very exclusive worldview. It is, we're going to unite nations into a one world government, and 90% of the people we're going to murder. Okay, through our policies or starvation or vaccination or sterilization programs or all these things. These people have the audacity to lecture you about exclusive worldviews? Are you out of your fucking minds? Ugh. So UNESCO held, and this is great. So this is going to be the gist of the episode today. We're gonna get into the symposium that they had. Oh God, I would have given anything to have a ticket to this thing. And I'm going to talk to you about what they found or what their sales pitch was to the people to try and get them to not buy into these conspiracy theories. I'm going to lay out how they're targeting kids. Of course, because they love kids to the extent that they can drink their blood, I suppose. I don't know. But kids, they've got these really devious terms that they use we're going to get to. And it's cult-like thinking. It's very cult-like. But of course, look, when you're seeking to form a one-world government, that's a cult in and of itself. So, of course, there's going to be cult-like thinking. So let's talk about this. This is UNESCO's International Symposium on Addressing Conspiracy Theories Through Education. Whoa, what a hoot. It was held in Brussels in June. And this was a combination of governments, academia, civil society, whatever that means, private sector, and media. I mean, the only thing missing is like the church, I suppose. Governments, academia, not good. Media, not good. Private sector, whatever. Yeah, that's us. Civil society. Civil society, you say? What does that mean? The whites? I don't know. I don't know what civil society is, but if they consider it civil society, I something tells me I probably wouldn't fit in. But their mission was to promote joint action against conspiracy theories. Again, if these conspiracy theories are so stupid, why the action? Shouldn't they just fizzle out under the weight of their own stupidity? Shouldn't they just eventually be mocked because they're ridiculous? Now, to be fair, the example they give of the unhinged conspiracy theory is stupid. And we'll get to that in a minute. And it's right to be mocked. It's more like a urban legend joke than anything. I don't think anybody that I know actually believes in it. And when I get to it, So anyway, I want to give credit though. What really sort of sparked my interest in this, and I talked about the United Nations and UNESCO, and of course I know about them, but I read an article from Alex Newman, and he wrote it for Epoch Times, and then it got picked up by Zero Hedge, and so credit to him for at least getting me sort of thinking down that path. I think I talked to Whitney about this, and about how they were having this summit. So I knew about it, but I didn't really dig too deep into it. But I want to read you a quote from Mark Crispin Miller, one of the few people in academia that I think is based and understands what's going on. He's a professor of media studies at New York University, NYU. And he had this to say. He said, "What they mean by conspiracy theory is any claim or argument or evidence that differs from the propaganda pumped out by the government and media. I can't think of anything more dangerous to free speech and free thought, and therefore democracy, than this effort by the UN, which has no business telling us what is true and what is not. Of course. Now, look, I'm all for figuring out what is true and what is not. And I fully recognize that I'm going to get things wrong. I have gotten things wrong. I will get things wrong in the future. That's just the price of doing business in a murky world of information. I'll always try to get it right, and I'll get a lot of it right. But of course, we have to acknowledge that we're going to get some of this stuff wrong sometimes. Hell, we're going up against the best liars in the world, and the CIA and all the intelligence agencies. They're very good at deception. They're very good. The fact that we get anything right is frankly a miracle. So we're going to get some things wrong, of course. And I don't have a problem being told, hey, that thing that we talked about there, yeah, most of it was right, but there's this one part and that was wrong, and here's the proof. And I go, oh, okay, fine, good, okay. I'm flexible. I want to get it right. I don't necessarily have to be right all the time, as long as my interest is in getting it right eventually. Hopefully on both, but not always. But I'll tell you where I'm not willing to take advice or be fact checked. That's by the United Nations. Okay, not interested in that. If the United Nations wants to come and say, well, actually, you're getting all this stuff wrong, my response is not interested. I don't care what your disinformation campaign is going to look like. The United Nations thinks that I'm getting this wrong because I'm a conspiracy theorist. I consider that to be a vote of confidence in my abilities. The problem is when the United Nations starts telling me that I'm right. That's when you really have to worry, okay? So this is what they say. They say that conspiracy theories also reduce trust in public institutions and scientific institutions, which can drive people to violence or decrease their desire to reduce their carbon footprint. Look, conspiracy theories don't reduce trust in public institutions and scientific institutions. Public institutions and scientific institutions did that to themselves. It wasn't conspiracy theories that did it to the scientific institutions. The scientific institutions were doing a whole bunch of lying, and then they got caught lying all through COVID. And now they're saying our reputations are destroyed, and it's all because of these conspiracy theorists. It's like, no. Your reputations are destroyed because of you. The reason why your reputations are destroyed, I guess if you want to be technical about it, is because of the conspiracy theorists, because we called you out on your lies and showed the world that you were lying, and now they don't trust you. That's not our problem. That's your problem. Might be our fault for it, in a sense, for exposing you. But you know how you can get away from having trust in scientific institutions be destroyed? You know the easiest way to get away from having that happen? Tell the truth. Don't lie to everybody. Don't hide the data. Don't say, well, we'll give you the data in 65 years. No. Oh, the trust in the vaccine industry has just plummeted. Shit, I wonder why. Could it be that you guys were lying about everything? Could it be that you faked the studies and then and pretended that you did other studies when you didn't, and said, oh, well, we don't have to do this. We're going to test it on 8 mice instead of doing full study. Oh, I wonder why trust in scientific institutions is down, because everything that you said would happen didn't happen, and everything we said would happen did. So are we to blame? I guess maybe technically we are. Our information was too good. Our information was too accurate. And by contrast, you look like pathological liars, which of course they are. They didn't get the information wrong accidentally. They lied, and they got caught by us because we know how to read, and we understand numbers, and we know who these people are. So maybe if scientific institutions don't want to have their trust reduced in the public sphere, then maybe scientific institutions should do a better job about getting the facts right. This was their own insane and dishonest actions, not ours. We held up a mirror. We showed them we showed the world who these people are. So here's a quote from them. This is crazy. All conspiratorial theories / thinking threatens human rights values. When you come out and say that all conspiratorial theories threaten human rights values, first of all, it's nonsensical. But let's examine, why would you say that? Why would you feel the need? Why would you want to scare people so badly to keep them away from conspiratorial thinking? Is it because conspiratorial thinking is actually a threat to human rights? Like, I don't understand how that makes any sense at all, but let's just go with their idiotic line of thinking. Conspiratorial thinking is a threat to human rights. How? Because it might get to the truth? And you guys don't want people to know the truth because you've got your own agenda going on? Is that it? It threatens your values. It doesn't threaten everybody else. It doesn't threaten human beings' values. It threatens the United Nations bullshit agenda. For sure it does. See, that's the thing. If you're not doing it, like if you got nothing to hide, then you got nothing to worry about, that sort of thing. Well, if you're the United Nations, if you're just telling the truth all the time and you're just full of truth, there's just so much truth, it's just pouring out of the United Nations, then what do you care about conspiracy theories? Bring them in. Let them embarrass themselves at the altar of the truth. But that's not what's happening. You see, they don't care about you talking about Bigfoot or Elvis or any of that shit. They'll let you talk about that all day long. And I love that stuff. I love the fun stuff. That's not what they're worried about. There are certain conspiracies that matter to them and others that don't. So it's not a blanket conspiracy theories are dangerous. When you examine it, what they're saying, if you read between the lines, is certain conspiracy theories are dangerous to our narrative. They're not dangerous to the world in general. They're dangerous that we're trying to create a version of reality here. And you guys are screwing that up by coming in here and inserting all these things like facts and truth and all that. It's really hard for us. We're trying to lie here. We're trying to lie on a grand scale. And you guys are coming in here and bringing receipts, and we don't appreciate that. So there are certain theories, conspiracies that are fully allowed to flourish, and you can talk about them openly. And then there's others that you will get kicked off of social media for. You know what they are: election interference, Sandy Hook, climate change denial, vaccines, COVID, Israel criticism. Those are narratives that will get you kicked off of social media. Is it because they're dangerous, or is it because it's dangerous to their narrative? I think we know what these would be described as third rail topics, So I'm going to read a quote from Patrick Wood. He is Citizens for Free Speech. I wonder if this is the same Patrick Wood from Technocracy News. I think it probably, well, if it's not, it's the same name and same line of thinking. So UNESCO joins a censorship cartel that now includes the European Union, the US government, the World Economic Forum, social media giants like Facebook and Twitter, and notably Google. Anyone who does not parrot the globalist narrative is by default considered to be a conspiracy theorist. That's what it boils down to. If you are not on board with the agenda, the narrative, then you are by default a conspiracy theorist, because that still has weight for a lot of people. I think people that are somewhat maybe new to this or just finding out about these topics, they don't, maybe haven't been in the space long enough to have a super deep understanding and their ability to sort of protect themselves in a discussion or debate or argument or whatever about these things. So if they find themselves in a situation where somebody just reflexively calls them a conspiracy theorist, to them, that's that's dismantling. It's like, oh shit, man, he just called me a conspiracy theorist. Like, we might have to fight or something like that. I don't worry about that stuff. I've as Sam Tripoli says, like, there's levels to this, right? I'm above that level. I'm not above it all, but that being called a conspiracy theorist to me is laughable. It's not insulting to me. In fact, somebody who calls me that is embarrassing themselves because they're walking into a debate that they're unprepared to handle with me. And so call me a conspiracy theorist if you'd like, but that just opened the door to me to debate you on these topics. And if we get into that situation, and you just pulled out the conspiracy theorist term like you were going to end the argument with that, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work for people that know the details of this. That slur isn't impactful anymore, because the conspiracy theories that we theorized, where do we want to go? We're not conspiracy theorists anyway. We're conspiracy analysts. We're not theorizing about potential conspiracies that may be out there, though we could, and maybe we do from time to time. But for the bulk of it, we're analyzing actual conspiracies that happen all the time. So this is not conspiracy theorizing. It's conspiracy analysis. And these conspiracies exist. They're very real. They're documented. They're only fake to the extent that they would like you to believe that they're fake so that you don't examine them. Because when you examine them, what you find is they are true. Not every one of them every single time, but the vast majority of these main bulk ones. COVID, 9/11, JFK, all these big ones, these conspiracy theories. Now, I'm not talking about Chinese moon bases and things like that. Okay. Those are conspiracy theories. We can debate that. We can get into it. We can look at their rocket system and do they have moon base? That's a fun debate, and one that there's a lot of flexibility on, and they'll allow you to have that conversation. UNESCO doesn't give a flying fuck about you discussing Chinese moon bases. You know what they care about you talking about? Vaccines. They don't want you talking about that, not even for a minute. Why? Because they know that if you start talking about that, that is going to lead you down a path where you understand and come to discover that almost everything they've been telling you about that agenda is a lie, and they can't have that. So this is the first barrier, and it works for a lot of people to just throw up the conspiracy theorist flag and paint somebody with that brush and say, you're a conspiracy theorist, have fun integrating back into society, you big dummy. It's like the equivalent of a dunce cap on somebody. That's what they think. In their mind, they're going to put the dunce cap on you, put you in the corner, and you're just going to be laughed at and mocked by the rest of the kids. Well, I'll tell you what, you might be. But the problem is the rest of the kids are too dumb for you to even give a shit about. They haven't figured it out. They wouldn't know a conspiracy. They wouldn't know the truth if it came up and bit them on the ass. But you do, because you understand the backstories to all of these things. So, and they fear that. They fear that deeply. They fear that to the point where they had to have this summit in Brussels over the summer to get to the bottom of it. Again, you don't have a summit in Brussels to talk about conspiracy theories if they're just nonsense. You have that summit because they're on to us, guys. We need to come up with a strategy to get rid of all these people that are examining our bullshit and catching us. So at the UN summit in Brussels, they had two areas in which they were focusing on: strategies to prevent people from believing in conspiracy theories, as well as tools for dealing with those who already believe in them. If this were a tweet, this would be where I would put the clown world emoji. The summit in Brussels is going to teach you how to deal with those who already believe in conspiracy theories. Oh, okay. I swear to God, I'm going to sneak into one of these. I'm going to get invited to one of these at some point. I'm going to pose as I don't know, the media or something. Someone's going to get me into one of these conferences, and it's going to be fantastic. But you have to do this. You have to have these meetings now, because the wheels are falling off the narratives for them. COVID is a disaster. It's not going well for them. It was, it was supposed to, if you look at Event 201, there's 65 million dead projected in this, and it's just this global catastrophe, and everybody's like, holy shit, we're all going to die if we don't do X, Y, and Z, and we get on board. And it didn't play out like that. The deaths were, relegated to a very unhealthy component. Most, kids weren't affected by it. People that took good care of themselves weren't affected by it unless they got put on a ventilator or given remdesivir or something like that. But by all accounts, it fizzled out. It was not the Black Plague 2.0. Thankfully, it wasn't, but it wasn't. And they were counting on it to be. And their messaging was based upon that. And the tactics and the way they were going to roll it out and the timing and all that stuff was predicated upon this being much bigger than it was. And so things started to happen. Their schedule got thrown off. They started to have to move things up a little bit sooner. It wasn't happening organically. So they had to, when you didn't have the bodies stacking up on the sidewalks, in New York City, like you sort of envisioned that they would, given that this Black Plague was coming around. When that didn't happen, then they said, well, how are we going to, that was going to be the mechanism that was going to force everybody to get the vaccine, because you were just going to be surrounded by death. And it would be obvious you go to the one thing that will save you, right? The magic potion. But they didn't see the death. I mean, you saw, if you were in nursing homes, you did, but so when that didn't happen, then they started giving away lottery tickets to get vaccinated, and things like that, and lap dances and Talladega laps, and you go, oh, this is not plan A. This is plan B, maybe even plan C. But this is certainly not what you do when you're in control of the narrative. So the wheels started falling off of their program fairly early on, and they noticed it, rightly. I mean, you can say what you want about the United Nations. They're evil and they're hell-bent on destroying the world, but they're not dumb. And so they recognized, okay, we need to call a meeting. We need to pivot towards this. But it wasn't just the United Nations either. The Biden administration lost control of the narrative as well. Remember, they tried to introduce the Disinformation Governance Board. Remember that? With the psychopath who was these are a few, but like all this stuff unhinged, and she had the crazy lib eyes, what I'm talking about. Failed to launch. If they tried to bring in the Ministry of Truth, like Orwell wept, right, when I saw that. So that it fizzled out. But did you know it's not totally gone? I mean, they now have said, well, we're thing. Okay, that's what they said. But do you know who they quietly installed to reboot it on the sly? They brought in Michael Chertoff. You know who Michael Chertoff is? You recognize him around, a little. But Michael Chertoff was the first director of Homeland Security, who was the guy so that they couldn't be prosecuted. He's the guy that started the company doing the backscatter machines to irradiate you when you go through the security lines at airports and train stations and places like that. That Michael Chertoff, that fucking guy, dual Israeli citizen, pathological liar, psychopath of the highest order. He quietly took over for Nina Jankowicz. Okay. So he's running that behind the scene. And this agency will come back. It will come back with a different name. It will come back with Chertoff in charge, and they will be way more organized. So be very careful about that. But this is, again, when you're losing the information war, Alex Jones, when you're losing the information war, you resort to things like this. You have summits where you talk about conspiracy theories, and you bring back ghouls like Michael Chertoff to be in charge of deciding what is and isn't information, good information. It's crazy. And of course, we've got right now happening in America, we've got the Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt, not to be confused with Google's Eric Schmidt, and Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry have filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration and Fauci and that sugar bear, the press secretary dipshit, and Facebook and everybody. And you know what they're suing them for? They're saying, we want to see the collusion between the White House and big tech on the censoring of information on those platforms. We want to see the collusion. We know we have it. I mean, Alex Berenson, in his Twitter lawsuit that he won, pointed that he had an email that they got during discovery that showed that the White House sent messages to Twitter saying, get rid of Alex Berenson. Again, if we're talking about such nonsense here, and if everything that we do is we're just unhinged and we're fantasizing about things that aren't real, why is the White House involved? Why is the White House telling the social media platforms to shut these people up? God damn it, and do it right now. Get that fucking Alex Berenson off of Twitter. He is blowing our cover on this. Of course, you do that when you're the bad guys. And then you get Mark Zuckerberg going on Rogan and admitting that the FBI came to them and said, well, there's some Russian hacking that's going on, and we're expecting a big dump of information right before the elections. So be wary of it. And if you get anything, we'll let you know when it's the Russian information, the disinformation that they're going to be spreading all over the place. Remember when Russia spent $100,000 on Facebook ads to spread disinformation, and they're like, oh, see, they threw the election for Trump, and everyone's like, are you out of your mind? If $100,000 on Facebook could win you the presidency, then my question is, why are they spending $1 billion advertising everywhere else? The answer is, of course, that's illogical. It wasn't $100,000 of Russian ad spending that did anything. That's bullshit. That's fake stuff. But what's very real? What's very real is when the FBI comes to Facebook and says, don't let anything about the Hunter Biden laptop get on this platform. Got it? Now, you may say, well, Facebook's a private company. They have every right they could do whatever they want and everything. Oh, no, they don't. No. You need to look into the history of who financed Facebook. It was financed by InQtel, the venture capital arm of the CIA. Okay. And Peter Thiel, who is basically a Department of Defense employee, I guess, at this point. I mean, given Palantir generating 97% of their revenue from the DoD, and Peter Thiel being one of the founders of Facebook, not founders, but 10% stake for $500,000, not bad. You would understand that the FBI considers Facebook to be a battleground. A place where information is changing hands. Good information and bad information. I'm not trying to say everything on Facebook is true or fake. There's everything. There's all kinds of information. Is there disinformation on Facebook? Of course there is. Is there information tied to Russia that's disinformation? Of course there is. Yeah. Did it swing the election? No. You know what swung the election? The FBI suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop. That did. You want to talk about Russian interference in our election? No. FBI interference in our election. Way more significant than anything Russia could have done. And so UNESCO launched a hashtag, which is going to fix everything, of course. Hashtag think before sharing. This was a joint deal was the UN, UNESCO, and the European Commission. And this was to try and stop conspiracy theories. They launched the hashtag I'm thinking before I'm sharing. That's why I'm sharing it, because I thought of it. I'm not reflexively sharing horse shit. I'm sharing information that's pretty good. I'm sharing stats. I'm sharing information about vaccine damage that I'm getting from good sources. So I am thinking before I'm sharing. The problem is you just don't like what I'm thinking. And you don't like what I'm sharing. They also, this should come as no surprise, but they also, through this UNESCO meeting, started pushing for fact-checking authorities. They started holding them up as, like appeal to authority when you're in an argument. Whoa, the fact-checkers, we need to elevate their status. And they need to have a prominent role in being on the front lines of this disinformation war and everything. You're like, okay, here's the problem with that. The fact checkers don't know facts. The fact checkers are 22-year-olds that don't know shit about anything, or to quote Ozark, I don't know shit about fuck. These are the people that are going to tell you that vaccines are safe and effective always. And it's like, You don't know what I know. Therefore, you coming in, you want someone to be a fact checker on this stuff? You probably should hire me. And it's not to say I know it all, far from it. But I know a hell of a lot more about what's true and what isn't true than some fact checker that you just got out of community college. I assure you. But again, they're not hired because they know what they're talking about. They're hired because they don't. They're told what is the truth. They're told what the facts are. This is the acceptable line of facts here. These things. Anything that falls outside of that is no longer a fact, whether it is or not, in the eyes of these platforms. So if it's not within the acceptable parameters to be discussed, then it has been fact checked as not true. It's Ministry of Truth stuff. But beyond the fact checkers, this army of paid fact checkers that are hired, outsourced by Facebooks and Twitters and the like. Beyond that, there's another group of people that the United Nations has targeted. So this is UN Global Communications Chief Melissa Fleming said, this should be alarming to people. So far, we have recruited 110,000 information volunteers, and we equip these information volunteers with the kind of knowledge about how misinformation spreads and ask them to serve as a kind of digital first spaces where misinformation travels. Isn't that cool? 110,000 people out there, volunteers, information volunteers that are going to they're going to be digital first responders. They're going to show up on the scene first and go, this is lies. These are all lies. We're going to train you. So that's what they're talking about. They're talking about an army of people that will be the first line of defense that will fight against us online. When we post something true about how dangerous the vaccines are, which are true, they will be the people that attack us. This 110,000 army, 110,000 person army of volunteers, information volunteers. Oh, great. Are they professional? Well, they're volunteers. I mean, we don't have to pay them. Do they know what they're talking about? Well, they know what we want them to talk about. And we know they know what we told them is acceptable. And they're going to be in these spaces where misinformation travels, which I'm assuming is online in general and social media in particular, or maybe Reddit and places like that, where misinformation. No, does a lot of misinformation travel in social media and on Reddit? Of course. Most of it's being pushed by the United Nations, of course. but yeah, I'm not trying to say that true or that all conspiracy theorists are sane, logical, reasonable people. We can't say that. We know that there's crazy people. We know there's some bullshit topics out there. We know there's some things that are nonsensical, but we know that they'll say, yeah, you guys want to talk about, you want to talk about inner Earth and vaccines and everything. It's like, whoa. Let's differentiate between vaccines and inner Earth, shall we? But they want to lump it all together. And by the way, for the record, I'm interested in inner Earth. Okay, if I'm not trying to say there's not something to it. I'm fascinated, but I don't pretend to know anything about it. And it doesn't really matter to me at this point. Not the way vaccines do. Not the way that the lies of the pharmaceutical industry and the United Nations. Those really matter to me. Those are my priority. When I have time off and I want to just geek out and check out, do I wonder if the moon is hollow? I've got Who Built the Moon by Alan Butler. I've got that book and I've read it, so maybe. But I'll tell you what, this is something that I think is very important to understand. When you have to bring in a 110,000 person army of information volunteers, remember this: the truth doesn't require this much maintenance, but lies do. So let's talk about what they're doing here. They're targeting kids. Okay, this is UNESCO, right? So again, back to United Nations Educational organization. All right. So UNESCO is concerned about targeting kids in schools. All right. They want to get to kids early with their propaganda. I mean, the truth, right? It's the truth. They believe that what they're saying is going to help these kids be better prepared for how to navigate a world filled with misinformation. Okay. What they don't mention is that the world because of the United Nations and other groups like them. But besides that, okay, so what they're doing is they're focusing in this through this program of teaching the teachers how to figure out what is a conspiracy theory and what isn't. Okay, so they offer them steps, and they're very step-by-step oriented in terms of how you deal with conspiracies, conspiracy theorists, where you give them a little bit of oxygen to breathe and where you snuff them out, So they start with this. Number one on the list is identify and dismantle conspiracy theories. Okay. Number two is building conspiracy theories. Next on this list is analyzing the difference between real conspiracy versus conspiracy theory. Now, the examples that they give for real conspiracy is Watergate. They say Watergate was a real thing. It was a break-in. It was a crime. It was all these things. I mean, there's more to Watergate than what this is also called a limited hangout. So they talk about the real conspiracy of Watergate. They don't go deep enough, of course, but that's what they throw. Then they say the conspiracy theory, the fake conspiracy theory. This is the one I said that they chose to use, which is fucking ridiculous and insulting. But they said conspiracy theory, like, birds aren't real. And you're like, really? That's the one you picked? Like, that's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke conspiracy theory. Birds aren't real. I do know that there is a patent. By the way, it's not 100% unreal because there is a patent that I saw that was showing like robotic birds that had cameras and everything. So I do know that exists. But look, the pigeons that used to live right by the Carl's Jr. restaurant on campus at USC that I would see when I was in college there. Those pigeons are very real. You know how I know those pigeons are real? Because they were like third generation pigeons that all they ever ate their entire lives were Carl's Jr. French fries, and they were all mutated and their eyes didn't look right and they'd have like 1 foot and their wings were all kind of fucked up and they're jankety looking birds. Those were real birds, okay? If the CIA built those birds, they should ask for their money back. Should be embarrassed. Those are some shoddy ass birds that they had. But that's what they use as the conspiracy theory. Birds aren't real. So of course, when you read that, it's laughable, right? You get all these people that are sitting in this conference. They're going, oh, the real conspiracy, Watergate. And they're going, yes. Yeah. We heard about Watergate. That was a good conspiracy. And they go, and then the fake conspiracy, birds aren't real. Yeah, of course you're laughing. Of course this is nonsensical when you use that. How about the conspiracy theory is 9/11 is an inside job? Ooh, now if we do that one, that's a little different because, of course, there's truth to that. So, they throw out the most ridiculous conspiracy ever, like, oh, like this is what we're up against. Listen, if what you're up against is birds aren't real, why are you having a conference? If birds aren't real or kicking your ass in the conspiracy information war, it's time to fold up shop and go home because you suck at your job. If birds aren't real is what's doing it, then you guys have bigger problems than just the information out there. But that's not what they're worried about, of course. They mentioned fact-checking services. Of course, they promote fact-checking. We're going to have these fact-checking services. Who will fact-check the fact-checkers, I ask. But then they get into something that is wild, okay? They call this pre-bunking conspiracy theories. Okay. And I'm going to read this and I want you to tell me if you think this is cult-like behavior or not. Okay. Just listen to how they describe pre-bunking conspiracy theories. Is also sometimes called inoculation. I think you know where I'm going with this. Psychologists have proven that weakened forms of harmful information carefully introduced and framed can help to strengthen the resilience against wider harmful messages, much like a vaccine. Holy shit. They're so in a cult. Everything's a vaccine to them. Everything has to be vaccination related. They're going to vaccinate you intellectually against conspiracy theories. And you know how they're going to do it? They're going to introduce weakened forms of information like a vaccine. Oh wait, I thought you changed. Did somebody consult with the United Nations? Because they changed the definition of vaccines. Vaccines only come from you only get protection from vaccines. It's better than any sort of other immunity, right? It's only vaccination. They need to check the terms, because clearly the terms of what a vaccine is have changed since they came out with this. But again, pre-bunking. They're going to get to you before the conspiracy theory gets to you with an information vaccine. It gets worse. It gets worse because they also discuss mediated conversations with parents. If a kid has wrongthink from their conservative parents, they don't call it wrongthink and they don't mention conservative parents. I put that part in there. But basically what they're saying is that now remember, they're teaching teachers how to teach kids about the conspiracy theory. So this is focused on teachers. And so what they're saying is to these teachers, you might have to have a conversation with the parents. Like if you have a kid who comes into your classroom and is talking about how January 6th wasn't an insurrection after all, then what you have is you have a problem with the parents. And you might have to have mediated conversations with the parents, meaning supervised visits with the parents that are monitored. Struggle sessions? What are we going to take the parents? Is this the Khmer Rouge? What do we do after the mediated conversation with the parents? Do we murder them and let the state raise the kids? This is some commie gobbledygook, as the great Norm Macdonald would say. You're going to bring the parents into this and sit the parents down and say, we have a problem with your kid. Your kid is talking about some nonsense. We're going to have to put you on a list. This is not good. I mean, this is not what you do when you're winning the information war also. This is what you do when you're definitely losing it, which the United Nations is. So if a student has questions about the COVID vaccines, they are trained to say, the teachers are trained to say the following: state that the vaccine has been scientifically proven to be safe and that it is important to get vaccinated to curb the pandemic. Talking points. These are the talking points you use. Scientifically proven to be safe, important to get the vaccination to curb the pandemic. This is what NPCs say. This is the NPC where they're all saying the same thing, you know, the vaccine is totally safe and effective. It's important to get vaccinated to curb the pandemic. Programming. Teachers are urged to report students to safeguarding authorities or safeguarding officers. You mean the school Gestapo? What? Not learning properly? Mach schnell, take them out to the courtyard. What is going on here? Report students to safeguarding authorities? Are we talking about the fucking police? This is crazy. Okay? And again, not coming from a position of strength in the United Nations, but coming from a position of weakness. This is what you do when you are desperately losing a battle and trying to, you go over the top authoritarian. If these fucking kids if they're talking about it, hell, bring their parents in. Bring the cops in. Whatever you have to do, just get these kids to stop talking about this shit. This is the United Nations teaching teachers how to deal with kids, telling them to bring their parents in to monitored sessions and to bring in cops or school safety officials or whatever. Not that there are actually cops in schools, you know. You tell the cop that they have to come in for this meeting and they'll immediately go run for 45 minutes and hide in their cars. People only believe in this is what they said. People only believe in conspiracy theories because they feel powerless or as a coping mechanism for uncertainty, or seeking to claim minority status. So much fun to be in the minority and get called a crazy, unhinged conspiracy theorist. I just love that. That's a blast. Why would anyone want that? Why would anybody want this for, So that's what they tell them to do. These are the instructions, all right? So they want you to pre-bunk stuff, push fact-checking services. They'll give them, know the difference between a real conspiracy and a fake conspiracy, like a real conspiracy like Watergate and a fake conspiracy like birds aren't real. Yeah, don't ever mention the vaccines, of course. So this is where they go. Now, so you go, okay, well, who's running UNESCO? I mean, I know it's the United Nations, but this sounds crazy to me. Like the ideas that are coming out of this UNESCO, the education services, this doesn't sound like a form of education that I would be interested in. This sounds like it's coming out of, I don't know, for China or something like that. So who is running the show? Oh, who's Deputy Director General? Oh, just Q Jing. Ties to the China Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Chinese Embassy in France. The Minister of the Chinese Embassy in France is in charge of this program that is teaching teachers to bring their parents in for monitored sessions and bring the authorities in to deal with kids that are talking about conspiracy theories. It's being run by a guy who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs for China. He supervised the permanent delegation of China into UNESCO. This is the guy that got China into UNESCO, and they put him in charge of it. He facilitated this, they put him in charge. And then guess what they did? All the policies that are coming out towards kids look remarkably just like China. Isn't that weird? What a coincidence. That's crazy, right? But so you've heard of Agenda 2030, right? UNESCO has something else. They have Education 2030. Oh, as you would think, 17. You got to follow the sustainable goals because it's all about sustainable. If there's one thing we've learned about the United Nations, they care about the world as they're exterminating 90% of the population, right? Want to ensure oh God, these words again. Buzzword. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, or until they get to the 4th grade. Now, I added the 4th grade part, but remember what the United Nations did when they did that study to show we're trying to depopulate the 3rd world, and how much education is needed so that we can educate these savages just enough so that they stop fucking but not so much that we waste a bunch of money educating these people. And they found that 4th grade was the level. Remember that episode that we did? It's disturbing. And they would teach girls up to the 4th grade and they'd say, well, once you have that much of an education, you're at least qualified to do something other than have 9 kids. And so we think that, after the studies show that after a 4th grade education, instead of having 9 kids, you're now only going to have, 4 or something. And therefore it's a good investment. And by good investment, I mean by Henry Kissinger's standards. So they want to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. But do they really want to promote lifelong learnings, or do they really only want to promote it to the 4th grade? But I digress. So the types of issues, they are worried about 4 things. Okay. They should be worried about the truth, but that's not on them. They're worried about misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, and fake news. When you're an organization thing you can do, it strikes me as a bit, I don't know. The United Nations is lecturing anybody on hate speech, considering how much they hate everybody. So they found that 78%, they did a survey, 78% of the participants in Nigeria, of the participants in Mexico, 56% of the people in Greece, 55% of the people in Egypt, and 19% of the people in Japan all believe in a single secret group of people who are controlling the world. Based. Yeah, you know why they believe that? Because they're right. Well, actually, I should say single secret group isn't actually right. There's multiple groups multiple secret groups controlling the world. But 78% of people in Nigeria, they're not having it. They're not having it. And by the way, I just went and looked on Chartable, because you can do that, and you can type in like podcasts and you can see like where they rank in countries all over the place. This show, Macroaggressions, is number 70 in Nigeria right now. So shout out to everyone in Lagos. But I expect some emails from you people. Good for you for not believing any of this normie bullshit and knowing at least 78 out of 100 of you understand that there is a group trying to rule the world. And guess who it is? It's the United Nations. Of course, yeah. I feel like Nigeria is about to get some democracy dropped on their ass by the United Nations pretty soon. Well, they're already trying to depopulate. Actually, all these countries are, well, not all. Nigeria, Mexico, Egypt, those are on the list being depopulated by the United Nations, so they already hate you. Clearly, these countries have decided that they're not interested in what the UN is selling. So they make some rather bold proclamations about what conspiracy theories do. They say that they fuel violence. Okay. Conspiracy theories polarize society and may fuel extreme or violent extremism. May fuel, that's a qualifying word right there. They may fuel violent extremism. Well, guess what? They may not too. So now what do? Dumb statement. Here's something they do for sure. They reduce trust in public institutions. Again, the truth of the matter is that the public institutions have reduced the trust in themselves by their own actions. The conspiracy analysts are just pointing out what their actions are, which isn't appreciated, of course, by the institutions. But it's not the conspiracy theorists that are out there doing all of these bad things. The institutions are the ones doing the bad things. They're just mad that we're talking about what they're doing. And so they say this will fuel violence. No. You feel violent towards us because we're exposing you. We're not fueling. Well, if there is violence, it'll be because you guys have it coming to you, like in Sri Lanka, where the people just said enough of this. Reduce trust in public institutions. Well, why is the trust reduced in public institutions? Well, because the public institutions are out there doing horrible shit. Well, then of course. Why is this our fault? It's your fault. We're just pointing it out. So conspiracy theories erode trust in public institutions, which can lead to political apathy and polarization. Research in the United States has shown that people who are exposed to conspiracy theories linked to the manipulation of federal elections experienced higher anxiety and expressed less support for democratic institutions and norms. So they're upset that people do not support democratic institutions that they think are cheating them in elections. Again, maybe don't cheat in elections and then you won't have this problem. Respect is earned. You want the respect of the general public in these public institutions? Start acting like it. If you're going to be out here lying to people, cheating people, telling people to do one thing when you know it's counter to their own best interests, then yes, of course you will have less support. Rightly so. And maybe you can go back to the drawing board and say, well, maybe next time around, if we want to have the support of the people, we won't lie to them or cheat them or steal from them or murder them or put a policy in place that negatively impacts them that's based on lies. Maybe try that next time around. See how that works, just to try it. They also talk about patterns of conspiracy narratives. Here's from them. The statement, there's so many problems with it, but I'm going to read the statement this is from the United Nations. This is it. There's a 19-page document. Of course, I read it. I'm going to put it in the show notes that is basically like the syllabus or the sort of the framework for this event. If you weren't at the event, then you at least have this document. You can, it's the handout that you get there. So it says this, talking about conspiracy narratives. Conspiracy theorists provide an array of, quote, evidence that they claim supports their theory. They join the dots between unconnected events and people, suggesting falsely that nothing happens by accident. They evoke a secret plot. They vote a secret pot that questions reality and implies that nothing is as it seems. People who believe in conspiracy theories divide the world into good and bad, which usually results in scapegoating people and groups. Conspiracy theorists provide an array of evidence that they claim supports their theory. Yeah, evidence is great when you've got it. When you've got evidence like we have of how dangerous the shots are, that does support our theories. Of course you want that evidence thrown out. They join dots between unconnected events and people. No, we join dots between connected events and people. Are you suggesting that none of these events and people are connected to one another? Are you saying that? Because if that's what you're saying, you're embarrassing yourself. Suggesting falsely that nothing happens by accident. No, things happen by accident. But when you have Event 201 6 months before COVID rolls out, and then COVID rolls out exactly like Event 201, then you've got problems. That's not falsely noting that nothing happens by accident. That's pointing out a plot. They evoke a secret plot as reality. Questions reality and implies nothing is as it seems. Again, nothing is as it seems. That is a true statement. There is it's not secret anymore. I mean, we know about it. This is classic projection on their part. Everything that they're saying is directed back at them. It's so frustrating and crazy. People who believe in conspiracy theories divide the world into good and bad, which usually results in scapegoating people and groups. Again, as they scapegoat people and groups in this statement. Oh, it's always conspiracy theorists. It's never us. The next thing on the list is reduce trust in science. Okay. This is what they said. Conspiracy theories erode trust in scientific institutions, science, and scientific data. Conspiracy theory belief can drive people to defy public health guidelines and put others at greater risk of exposure to deadly diseases. Exposure to conspiracy theories about climate change has also been found to decrease people's intentions to reduce their carbon footprint. So, reduce trust in science. Conspiracy theories erode trust in scientific institutions, scientists, and scientific data. No. Scientific institutions erode trust in scientific institutions themselves. When they lie about the science, when they tell you you can't question the science, when they tell you to trust the science, when they tell you to trust it but not to question it, that does far more damage than somebody asking questions about the science. Because look, if the science is solid, then it stands on its own. You know, if it's so solid and so above reproach, put it out there, let everybody attack it, and let them fail. And that will only strengthen the science, right? But they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to attack the science. They don't want you to question the science. They don't want you to dig into it. Why is that? Is it because it's disrespectful to it? No, it's because if you start questioning it and digging around, you will find that it is built on a flimsy foundation, which is, of course, what we've been saying for 2.5 years now, pointing it out, documenting it, showing you evidence. They don't want you questioning the science, not because the science is perfect. They don't want you questioning it because they know it's fake, or at least components of it are fake. And as for exposure to conspiracy theories about climate change has also been found to decrease people's intentions to reduce their carbon footprint. Well, yeah, that's what happens when you discover that climate change is fake and that your carbon footprint is a scam. Yeah, that's what happens. It's come up. Look, here's a tip to the United Nations. Come up with better lies. If your lies are better, they won't get challenged like this. The problem is your lies are dumb. They're not very well built. And so when you know you have a lie that isn't built on a solid foundation, you have to defend it. You have to have conferences like this. It requires constant maintenance of these lies. The truth does not. You just put the truth out there and let it do its thing. They're not worried about the truth. The truth is the mortal enemy of these people. They're worried about you picking apart the lies. So they have to demonize you and make you question yourself. They have to make you feel like, oh, I'm going to be branded as a conspiracy theorist by my peers or the general public or people that are important to me. And if I do that, then I'm somehow now down a level in my social hierarchy, or I'm now kind of like the joke of the party. I'm the guy that everyone goes, oh, that tinfoil hat wearing guy over there. I don't want to be that guy. So they're preying on your insecurity. They're preying on you wanting to kind of not get picked on or not, fit in, you not wanting to be singled out as believing something that goes against the herd's thinking. Well, I don't give a shit about that. And I, I'm about the truth here and trying to figure out where it is and what it is. And if someone wants to call me a conspiracy theorist, that's fine. It's on, by the way. Let's go. You bring your information, I'll bring mine. We'll see who wins. Okay. 7 traits. There are 7 traits. This is classic projection, by the way. So just when you hear this is like when when you hear Hillary Clinton talking and you're like, oh my God, everything that she is accusing the other people of are things that she's doing. And it's so frustrating to listen to it because she's doing this. So this is the 7 traits of conspiratorial thinking. And I'm going to read these out, and then you just listen to them and you just think if this is a case of projection or not. So number 1, contradictory. The official story must be wrong. Okay. Number 2, overriding suspicion. Exhibit nihilistic levels of skepticism towards institutions, scientific information, and official accounts. Number 3, nefarious intent. These are the 7 traits of conspiratorial thinking. So if you're listening to this show and you've got conspiratorial thinking, these are 7 of the things that describe you. Okay. Number 3, you have nefarious intent. Conspiracy theories never propose that the presumed conspirators have benign motivations, meaning harmless motivations. Number 4, something must be, you are thinking something must be wrong. Believes the official account is based on deception. Oh, gee, I wonder why we would think that. Number 5, persecuted victim. Conspiracy theorists see themselves as victims of organized persecution. Simultaneously, they also believe they are brave heroes fighting against the odds to bring down the all-powerful conspirators. Yeah, in the morning when I put my cape on, I like to envision myself as a brave hero fighting against the odds to bring down powerful conspirators. No, I just don't like being lied to by dummies in the media and in these organizations that are trying to kill everyone. They're trying to depopulate the planet again. Well, that's a conspiracy theory. Yeah, except that they write about it in all their stuff. So, number 6, you dirty conspiracy theorists out there are immune to evidence. Oh, if this isn't projection, I don't know what is. Any evidence you present that shows a theory is false is reinterpreted as being part of the conspiracy. Number 7, reinterpreting. You guys out there are always reinterpreting randomness. Pattern detection is a common feature in conspiracy theories. Pattern detection is a common feature in human beings, by the way. Where random, unrelated events are weaved into a broader, interconnected pattern where nothing occurs by accident. When David Rockefeller, the founder of the United Nations, talks about how they are plotting to create a one world government and that his family has been called international, that is the charge we stand proud of the charges against us. Okay, when you've got that guy who runs the United Nations talking about how they're going to create a one world government, and then you point out that this is part of a broader interconnected pattern where nothing occurs by accident, please explain to me how we're wrong. Take as much time as you want. These things are unconnected. The founder of your organization has said that he wants to depopulate the world. The founder of your organization has said that he wants to use the United Nations to create a one world government. The United Nations is plotting to create a one world government. I don't have to connect too many dots. The fact that you're saying I'm crazy for doing that is more a reflection on the United Nations than it is on me. Do's and don'ts of debunking. These are the things you do. Focus on the facts you want to communicate, not the myth you want to debunk. Bro, if you were working with facts, we wouldn't need conspiracy theories. You're not focusing on facts, not the myth you want to. There are no facts. The United Nations is devoid of facts. It's not about facts with them. They are about selling you a feeling free of facts. When we come to debunk them, we have to bring the facts. Because we can't just say, I feel like the United Nations is up to no good. That's great. I feel like the United Nations is up to no good too, but we're going to need more than just our feelings. They do not want you to have the facts. But they say, focus on the facts you want to communicate, not the myth you want to debunk. Then they say, choose one target, the author, me, the source or logic behind the conspiracy theory to not overwhelm. So just pick one person and shit all over them. Like the author of the book that you read, The Octopus of Global Control. Focus on that lunatic, right? Always state clearly that the information is wrong before quoting a conspiracy theory. See, do you understand? This is what they're immediately, automatically, reflexively, and always state clearly that the information is wrong before quoting the conspiracy. Just automatically say it's wrong. Does that sound scientific to you? Does that sound like facts to you? Does it sound like you're operating in good faith? Or does it sound like anytime anybody says anything conspiratorial, automatically and clearly state that the information is wrong? It's the most dishonest way of dealing with information I think I've ever heard. So again, who's coming at this from an open and logical and understanding and measured and fair point of view, and who isn't? Provide a fact-based alternative explanation. Well, actually, blah, blah, blah. If possible, use visual aids to back up your argument. Hey, listen, you fucking conspiracy theorist. Hang on a second. I'm going to fire up this Excel spreadsheet. Come here for a second. I'm going to argue it. This is nonsensical. Okay, don'ts. Here's the don'ts. Don't do this. This is what the UNESCO is telling the teachers. Don't do this. Don't focus on the conspiracy theory first. You may inadvertently reinforce it. You may find that it's true and wind up reinforcing it. Don't talk about it. Oh, fuck. No. Don't talk about it at all. To talk about it, you might actually reinforce it and make it true. So don't talk about it because you might make it true. And don't overwhelm with information. So what is it? So you say here you want to use visual aids, and you say here that you need to pick one target, and you say here to focus on the facts, but then you also say don't overwhelm with information. Listen, I will overwhelm you with information to get my point across. Okay? I will use all of the information that I have to get my point across. If you say, if you want to say that the United Nations is a force for good, and I want to say that the United Nations is a force for evil, I'm going to give you 77 different reasons why. You're only going to have one. Okay? I will overwhelm you with information. You know why? Because I have so much of it. That's what you do. When you've got the information and it's good information, you overwhelm with it. When you've got jack shit, you tell your people, don't overwhelm with information. The reason is we don't have any. So I'm going to end it with this. And this comes from them. It says, this document is a first introduction for educators working in and outside of formal schooling on how to identify, prevent, and address conspiracy theories in educational settings. It seeks to provide educators with key definitions and essential knowledge to grasp the complexity of the phenomenon and alert learners about the key characteristics and harmful effects of conspiracies for a first immediate response. To support educators in this endeavor, this document outlines strategies to prevent the belief in conspiracy theories, as well as to engage with learners who already believe in them. They are losing the information battle, and they know it. That's the reason why you have to have this. This is not a summit that you have when you are coming from a position of strength. This is a summit that you put together when you are losing the information war, and they're losing it because they're lying to you, and the general public has figured it out. Hey, if you like this episode, there's a little button that you can hit on the place where you're listening to this. You can share it with your friends and family. I would really appreciate it if you would do that. Get the word out there. You can rate the show as well. It doesn't matter so much to me, but apparently it does to the algorithm. So if you like this show, please consider subscribing to it, rate the show, share it with your friends and family. If you want to connect with me, the website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. You can follow me on Twitter @macroaggressions. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks, everybody.